It's this ripple effect of recovery, right? One person can have a massive effect on the community around them. And if you enter recovery, you automatically owe this debt to whoever you want to say it's to. I say it's to my higher power, right? I owe this debt to this higher power to do everything that I can to make sure that I'm balancing that every day.
Hi, this is Tim Westbrook. Welcome to I Love Being Sober. We talk about life in recovery, mental health, biohacking, alternative therapies, and everything related to living a kick-ass sober life. So let's dig in. Welcome back to I Love Being Sober, the show where we dive into the stories of healing, resilience, and transformation. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies what it means to turn pain into purpose. Matt Handy is the founder of Handy Treatment Centers and Harmony Grove Behavioral Health. He's a certified peer and family specialist, and more importantly, he's lived the experience from addiction and incarceration to becoming a beacon of hope for others. He's here to share his story, his philosophy on recovery, and how he's paying it forward in what he calls the debt of recovery. So, Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're here.
Yeah, me
and
too.
I was connected. We were connected through
Aaron McCall. And Aaron called me up and he said, "Hey, you got to have Matt on your podcast." So I'm excited to learn more about your story. I asked you to send over your mugshot, or actually, no, I didn't ask for your mugshot. I asked for your profile picture. Yeah.
And what you sent was your mugshot, and you definitely don't look the same as you did in that mugshot.
Yeah, that was December 28th of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was going to say that's, okay, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Almost 5 years ago.
Yeah. It's coming up on 5 years since that happened. Yeah. It's been a journey.
All right. Well, tell us what it was like, what happened. Let's start there. What was it like before recovery and what happened?
Yeah. So I was introduced to recovery in 2012. I had gotten out of prison for the first time.
Okay.
And
where'd you grow up?
San Diego, California.
You grew up in San Diego.
Yeah.
Okay. And then before, like, when did you start drinking or doing drugs or whatever? Like,
the first time I got high, I was 13. I smoked weed. And then it was like a steady increase to exposure to different substances and use till I was about 16. And then I hit opiates and then I started slamming at 17. But I was kicked out of I'm the oldest of 10 kids.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Yeah. So somewhere in the 16th, after I turned 16, so in my 17th year of life, I was kicked out of my parents' house. Mm-hmm. They had like 1 and 3 and 5 and 7-year-olds. They had a bunch of kids.
How was that?
It was so very rewarding, extremely hectic.
Okay.
Yeah. But no complaints about the siblings. But the reality was, like, I was born when my parents were 21 and 19. So they were kids too.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also the oldest grandchild. My grandparents have 28 grandchildren.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so I was the experiment, right? Nobody really knew what they were doing. They were all kids. And so by the time I'm 13, my parents had 8 kids.
Man.
Yeah.
And like, how does that happen? Like,
so we're Mormon. I'll say that.
Okay.
There's a religious component there.
Okay.
But I don't know. It was just my parents really had this spiritual urge to have kids, like, constantly.
Okay.
And I remember, like, the conversations as a kid where my mom would be like, "I'm almost positive that I'm missing something and I should have another kid." And then they had their last kid and they were like, "Okay, we're done."
Now, were your parents loaded? Were they wealthy?
No, that's actually part of the exposure that I had as a child, right? So my dad went to the Gulf War in 91. There was already 3 of us.
Okay.
And then he went back to school to get his degree so that he could then go to law school. He graduated law school when I think I was 12.
Okay, so your parents they're Mormons, they're religious, they're doing God's work, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. They're doing the next right thing. Mm-hmm. And I just hear that many kids. It's like, you got to have a lot of money if you're going to have that many kids.
No, it's funny.
Because every time you have a kid, it's more money.
Yeah. No, it was a struggle for sure. I can remember times where we would have people like over for dinner on Sunday, and then we would like search through the couch to see if people drop change, kind of stuff, you know.
Okay.
And it was like really budgeting like how many top ramens we had and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was intense. And so my dad graduates law school, immediately finds a really good opportunity, and even still though, even if he was making more money than he'd ever seen, but they still had 10 kids, you know. So
you had 10 kids.
there was a couple years of growth where we became comfortable, right? But by the time we were comfortable, I was already doing whatever I was doing.
Yeah.
And so there's actually, so I cut contact after at 21, 22, somewhere around there. I didn't talk to my family for 10 plus years, none of them. No social media, nothing, so that nobody could find me. And the thing was, I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I knew that, so I have an uncle actually who I had watched burn all of his bridges with our family. And I knew like, this is going to be me. Like if I continuously try to have one foot in, one foot out with my family, I'm going to burn these bridges. And then when I'm actually ready to come back, it's going to be a nightmare trying to get back. So I put a bunch of pieces together. It's actually funny. So I got introduced to recovery in 2012.
Okay.
I got out of prison. I have a brother who was in the program.
Okay.
And I remember being in prison making fun of him. Like, oh man, you can't, like, whatever. Making fun of him for going to 12-step meetings. And then I get out. I'm doing drugs all through prison, and then I get out, and then my parents find out that I'm doing drugs, and my dad said something to me. I'll never forget it. It's like 3:00 in the morning. I call my dad, and circumstantially, I had to tell him that I was using drugs because somebody else was going to tell him before me. And if I had to cut it off at the head. So I called him at 3 a.m, and he got out of bed, like went away from mom, like so that she wouldn't hear. I was like, Dad, please, I got to tell you something, and mom can't hear. And so he's like, what's going on? I was like, look, I was using this whole time, but I'm like, look, I relapsed. And he was like, what? Like, dude, you're doing so good. You're in culinary school. Like, what happened? Are you just some kind of addict? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a drug addict, you know? And it was like, you know, drugs started really young. It became a major problem. Everybody around me knew I was an addict before I did, but it was just like this moment of clarity, like, oh my gosh, I'm a drug addict. Right. So first introduction to recovery was right around that time. I got sent to treatment for the first time, and really started my journey at that point. Because I knew I wasn't ready, and I wasn't going to do something that they wanted me to do just because they wanted me to do it. And I made these decisions like fully aware of the consequences, where I was like, okay, I'm going to burn these bridges. This isn't what I want to do. And I left, and I didn't talk to them for a decade. Wow. Yeah.
So after that phone call was when you
got sent to treatment.
Okay. And had you not talked to him for 10 years prior to that?
No, I was 21. I had just gotten out of prison.
You had just gotten out. Okay. What did you go to prison for?
That was for assault with a deadly weapon and like drug stuff. Okay.
So 2012, you have this conversation with your dad, and you say, I need to go to treatment, or he says, let me help you get to treatment.
No. It was, you're going to treatment. Okay. You know, like my brother had gotten clean, so they knew like what they needed to do. Okay. So there was no, do you need to go to treatment? You're going to treatment. Okay. So I went to treatment. And it's funny because it isn't funny. It's, I used Suboxone or methadone in treatment, and I got kicked out because I told them, I was like, look, I took my roommate's medication. They kicked me out, and I didn't tell my parents. Okay. They were like, you have to wait 2 weeks to come back. Okay. I was like, okay. So I was like 200 miles away from home, but I clicked with somebody in treatment, and he let me stay at his family's house. Wow. And just like, yo, go there. Don't do anything stupid. You can stay there, and I'll be here when you get back. And, but his family were the connect. So I was like, okay. So kind of spiraled out of control right there. I went back to San Diego from Riverside County, and it was all contact was cut at that point.
Okay. All contact was cut with
my family,
with your family. Okay. And then what happened?
I ran around for a while, immediately back on the needle, and I ended up with my second prison term. I sold a bunch of drugs to undercover cops 3 separate times, and they were just building a case on me and the group of people that I was hanging out around at the time. And I got busted. I ended up doing 28 months in the county.
Okay.
I took a state local commitment for prison time in the jails, and I got like a 5-year sentence, and I did half of that in county.
Okay.
So then I get out from there. And mind you, I'm skipping over like a lot of the war story part of this. I'm just going to try to give you the baseline of it. So I get out from there, and, again, it's, back to the races. I ended up meeting who is now my wife.
Okay. How'd you meet her?
It's a funny story. That actually is a funny story. She was, we were at the welfare office trying to get on Medicaid.
Okay.
Or Medicaid.
Yeah.
Because we both were trying to get our prescriptions paid for. So I was trying to get my methadone paid for. She was trying to get other stuff paid for. And I met her and moved in with her 2 days later. And then we've been together ever since.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That doesn't normally happen.
Yeah. And, we're both clean. We got married a few years back. We have a 4-year-old daughter, and our second daughter is going to be born in December.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So you're, I guess going back to you being the oldest of 10 siblings, how did that shape your sense of responsibility and your survival instincts?
So as far as we'll go with responsibility first. There was always a kid assigned to an older kid. Get them ready, get them dressed, make sure they eat, whatever.
Okay.
And that was how we kind of all shared the work, right? But I was always the oldest kid, and there was always this assumption that that they could look to me to know what to do, right? And at the time, so growing up, I always understood that I have these baseline expectations from my parents that stem from their religious beliefs. And so I always understood if I can satisfy this over here, then I can do whatever I want over here. And that's how I always did it. And it was like, I started surfing really young and hanging out with adults. I was always trying to grow up much faster than I should have. And I think my best friend when I was 12 was 32 or something. Okay. And he was a good influence, he actually introduced me to music and really was like a rock for that period of my life. But I always was trying to hang out with older people. I was 13 with like a 17-year-old girlfriend and
okay.
So I always just made sure that I satisfied whatever needed to be satisfied over here. And I'm talking about we had a lot of extracurricular expectations too. I was always playing an instrument, always in dance lessons, always singing lessons, just a bunch of just random stuff that my mom wanted us to do, on top of going to church for 3 hours on Sunday, going to church every Wednesday, going to whatever other church activities are done throughout the week. And then also the responsibilities within the church structure as well. So in the Mormon church, the 12-year-olds get the priesthood and there's responsibilities that come with that. And so I always had to make sure that I fulfilled those responsibilities. And so there was a lot of responsibility placed on me, and I always only did what I had to do so that I could, and it was easy for me to get away. I could just ask hey, I'm going to go over here. And it was okay. They trusted the people that I was hanging out with. And these people weren't exposing me to anything crazy. I was going surfing with them, and I going to Mexico with them and stuff to surf. And at the time, I was really young. I started surfing July 4th when I was 10 years old. And so everybody always told my parents he could actually be really good, if you let him surf. So I was always able to go surf whenever I wanted. And then my parents homeschooled us for a bit of that time too. And so I was even more surfing. And so I always just made sure I got to do this over here. Always make sure let's do that. And then I can do whatever I want. That eventually turned into me manipulating, right? Because the reality is I was exhibiting addict behavior way before I ever used. And a lot of that stems from I was sexually abused as a kid, and I was completely dishonest about it, right? I only told my parents about it in the last year and a half. And that really is only because the perpetrator then went on to hurt a bunch of my cousins and a couple of my siblings as well.
Wow.
So that all kind of came to a head about a year and a half ago. And they kind of confronted me about it too, because this was somebody that I was left with a lot when I was a kid.
Wow.
Exhibiting addict behavior for sure at a very young age. Just a lot of dishonesty and manipulation. And it wasn't even on like a level of like being malicious, you know. It was just like I wanted to do something different, you know. So I would tell them whatever they wanted to hear so that I could do whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, 99% of the time, it wasn't anything like inappropriate that I wanted to do. I wanted to go surfing. I wanted to hang out with these people. I just didn't want to be home. You know, there's like rules at home. There isn't rules anywhere else. So of course I'm going to be somewhere else, you know? And I started manipulating that though, right around 13. There was a dude across the street that rode BMX bikes, but he did drugs. And I was allowed to go ride BMX bikes with him every now and then. And I smoked weed with him and saw things that I shouldn't have seen. Didn't really partake in those things yet. But soon after that, we moved across the county. And that's where my drug use really accelerated. And really it was like me smoking weed and like dabbling in coke and drinking every now and then. But like I haven't drank in probably a decade. I hate drinking. I don't like the way it tastes. I don't like the way I'm a part Vietnamese and I'm pretty sure that I have that Asian allergy to processing alcohol. Okay. So I just get really uncomfortable. I get really puffy and red and I feel sick and then I feel sick the next morning. So I just don't enjoy it. I never have. And so drugs have always really been my thing. And we moved across the county and of course I found a guy that was like 25. Also a part of the church though. So I was like okayed to hang out with him, but doing drugs and doing a lot of other crazy stuff too. But I was then able to smoke weed every day and do coke whenever we wanted or whatever. And it was around this time, you know, I was 13, 14 when we moved there. It started really becoming a problem. And like it just steadily got worse. I was going out and partying. We were in high school. Then my brothers were also attending the same high school. And we hung out in the same friend group. And we were skaters and then I got my license and then we're taking trips to LA and we're skating all over the county and we're all doing drugs, you know, we're all smoking weed for sure. But then there's also other stuff going on. And the root of all this, right, is my obsession with females, right? So I was always willing to go farther than most people are to impress people. And then I was always way more hyper focused on female attention than I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like looking back on it, I was always more hyper focused on having females around me. And in order to successfully do that, it's a competitive world in high school. I had to stand out. And so I always had drugs. I was always doing something crazy. And so that's really where it accelerated into a problem. So much so that, you know, somewhere in the 17th year of my life, I was kicked out. You know, they were like, you got to go. You got to do something. Like, but you can't do it here. We have too many kids here. I'd gotten kicked out of school and expelled for just some stupid stuff that I had done. And then I got sent to the juvenile court correctional school. It's an accelerated program. It's a self-paced or accelerated program. So I ended up graduating high school in like 2 months. Now I'm just sitting around my parents' house with nothing to do. So I'm doing drugs. I'm hanging out on the streets all day. And they're like, you got to go. So down the street, there was.
So how does that work when they kick you out at 17? Because you're not even 8. You're not even.
I wasn't even 17 yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
How can they even do that? I mean, aren't they responsible for you?
I was your parents? Graduated from high school.
So since you're graduated from high school, legally they can.
Yeah, this is what I think happened. They were trying to scare me into doing the right thing.
Into being a good kid.
Yeah. Well, they were like, you got to go, thinking like, oh, he's going to come back.
Okay.
And that's not what happened. I literally found my way to do what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Which ultimately I'm very lucky that I never got caught up for the things that I was doing at this time. But I ended up living at a music studio and just getting into crazy stuff. And I actually developed some really cool friendships during that time that have really carried on to today still. Like I still have a couple really good friends who also ended up in like really massive bands, like European tours and stuff like that, and have their own recovery story. And, also prison stories that they've gone through as well. And it was just kind of these couple people that have stayed in touch over the years. Not like a true like best friend bond, but it's like we can still check in. Now we talk way more often because we're all clean. We're all doing way better things than we were. But so I ended up living at this studio, and that kind of led me to my first jail stay. I did a county year basically as soon as I turned 18. I got arrested while I was still 17, got bailed out, negotiated the case, and then basically right after I turned 18 checked in and did my first 8 months and 26 days in jail.
Wow. Okay.
And then from there, I got out, and my parents always gave me like a place to come home to, and it seems like definitely within a couple months, but as fast as I could, I would always be out of there.
Okay.
For multiple reasons. After I was like really kicked out the first time, I kind of understood like it is not right for me to be slamming heroin in my parents' bathroom with all these kids around, So it's like a running thing where like, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I won't disrespect you as much as possible, but it's going to happen for a little while until I can get and so there was a lot of friction, right, between me and my parents historically because of these calculated decisions that I was making that were just terrible decisions, but they were also very disrespectful. And it was looking back on it now, it's like, okay, I totally get why at 36 with, the history that I have, why my mom and I have friction points to this day, So I got out of that county year, and immediately some of the dumbest mistakes I ever made in my life was during this period. I started, I could get into detail with this if you wanted to, but we started, with a family member of mine, we started a boosting ring where we were like going around and stealing. We went to like 30 states in a year, and we're like stealing. We had like a buyer in Malaysia, and we were shipping everything to them. And it was something very specific, actually. It was breast pumps, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. They're like $1,000 breast pumps, and we could go in there and get like 20 of them out of a store at a time.
Okay.
And we just sell them all to this bulk buyer, and she would send us money before. Like we'd be like, hey, do you want to pre-order like 100 of these things? And she would send us a bunch of money. And we're doing drugs. So as fast as the money comes in, it's definitely going out.
Right.
And so in order to like fund these trips, because we're flying to New York, we're flying to Florida, we're driving all over the United States and just shipping out from wherever we were.
Yeah. And so you're buying these, or you're stealing these breast pumps from where? From like a clinic, a store, or like from a specific store. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You guys would like break in and
no. Operation hours, and we would have these. Everybody would have their role, but basically we'd fill up boxes. We would empty like a giant $70 box and put $20,000 worth of merchandise in it. Okay, and then just buy the box and get out of there.
Wow.
And it got to the point where we ended up stumbling across their security logs. This was in 2007 or 8, 9, somewhere around there. The internet was definitely a thing, but it wasn't as locked down as it is today. And we ended up finding the security log, so we could see like as we burned a store, like as we could not go back to that store anymore, we could actually see like that they were onto us, So, but this store, they used to be all over. They're not a thing anymore, but we would be able to map out like, okay, we're gonna go to San Francisco. There's 14 of them in a 30-mile radius. So we're going to hit these 6 today. We're going to hit these six the next day. We're going to hit these, and then we're going to do it again. And we're just going to burn it out until we can't do this anymore. And then we go to the next city.
Jeez.
It was very intense, and we never got caught for it. We didn't, but there was another team of people doing it around the same time. They got busted for it. And the guy who ended up teaching us how to do this, he's actually in prison still for this.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let's talk about your personal experiences and how did your personal experiences influence the vision behind your treatment centers and Harmony Grove Behavioral Health?
All of my experiences contributed to how we built out that company. Okay. Everything from the chairs to everything, right? The chairs that we use, the curriculum that we're developing, the colors that we painted it, everything is from the client's point of view. The way that we drug test people. And I did a 3-year program straight, and then I did like a 9-month program. I did a 7-month program. Then I did, 3 or 4 month programs. Mm-hmm. And I've done like a Synanon based program, faith-based program. I've done the full spectrum of different treatments.
How many times have you been to treatment?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 or 7 times.
Okay. So did you ever think it was going to be the last time? Or
yes.
Did you always think it was going to be the last time?
No. I was very aware of I'm not done.
Okay.
Yeah, I was always very aware of that. And the thing about it is, I consequences weren't ever enough for me, right? There was never anything consequentially that can stop me in my tracks and say, okay, maybe I should think about what I'm doing here, mm-hmm. right? Like by the time I was 21, I'd been to prison, lost a marriage, lost a kid, overdosed. And so, there's like a big core of consequences that could stop people. Mm-hmm. Not enough. And then by the time I'm 25, it was like doubled all that again.
Right.
Except for the overdose, it's probably tripled that by then. Right. And so consequences were never enough. And so I tell people, I think my addiction ran to its logical end, where I always liken it to like an abusive marriage, where there was a honeymoon phase that lasted for years. And then there was like a manipulation and abuse cycle. Mm-hmm. And then the fallout and divorce phase, right? And by the time I got arrested, for a bank robbery in the end of 2020. Mm-hmm. By the time that happened, I'm a heroin addict, right? And so it doesn't matter how much I want to stop, I can't stop, right? Mm-hmm. And also the lifestyle, and I was living under a bridge though, so it was like not much of a lifestyle, but I had fallen out of love with the drugs. And but the consistency that I was still experiencing in drugs that I'd never found in people, right? Kind of grounded me in the experiences that I was having. And I always tell people, like, drugs are really good at what they do. If they weren't, nobody would do them. Mm. And so I found this consistency early on. I was able to always find like solace and peace in the most chaotic of times, because I had this thing that I know that it was lying to me, but it was telling me the same lie for the last 15 years. Mm. And so it was just consistent. And
it's like it's the solution.
Yeah. I mean, and I tell people all the time, right? Like drugs kept me alive, right? If it wasn't for that component of what I was doing in my life, I probably would have killed myself a long time ago. Mm-hmm. But I always had that to look forward to, right? I always had that thing that I could go back to and find peace in that enough to keep me going, mm-hmm. right? And I don't know if people identify with that or not. I just know that is the easiest way for me to convey like what was going on. And so by the time I got arrested for the last time that I got arrested, I was well into that divorce phase. And mind you, I had nobody enabling me. I had nobody that I was codependent with in my life, that in my like darkest moments I could reach out for $10 or whatever, mm-hmm. or like find a family member that would like take me in when it was raining. No, I had to fully experience all of the consequences of my actions. And in that, I got to fully benefit from my suffering. Right. I got to really, really understand the depths and darkness of not just the decisions that I made, but the consequences that followed. And through that, by the time I got arrested, I knew I was done and I just needed a way to, I needed to get rescued. I couldn't do it by myself.
Right.
And so do you ever see those jail Spanish Bibles? It says, it's in Spanish. It says, rescued, not arrested, but it's in Spanish.
No.
So
are those in jails?
in jails,
Yeah,
always.
no.
It's like
I've never seen
bars.
it. Okay.
And then it says in Spanish, right? It says like, rescudado, no arrestado.
Okay.
Right. And I always think about that now because like, man, I was really rescued. Not necessarily from the drugs or anything. It was like I was rescued from the cycle that I couldn't get myself out of because I didn't want for my entire life until that point, I didn't want to be rescued from the drugs. I knew how to do it, right? Like if I was ever really serious about getting my life together, there was a very clear path to that for me. And I also, I'm not unique, but it was something that I had that a lot of other people don't have, is that I knew that when I was ready, my family would accept me back.
Right.
I knew it, right? I hadn't burned them. Obviously, I'd made mistakes when I was a kid, right? But as an adult, like, I hadn't really done them dirty, right? I hadn't spent all that time with one foot in and one foot out, where I just dragged them down or let them down time after time after time. And so I had this like clear path out. The thing was, there was an expectation that I had to meet before I could utilize that pathway, and I couldn't meet that small expectation first, right? Is that I had to be clean for a year.
Okay.
And so
was that like was that expectation like out in the open?
Yeah. So that's kind of like in the industry, we always hear people talk about the genetic predisposition. And I definitely have a genetic component to my addiction, right? I don't contribute much of it to that, but there is one, right? Like 100% of it was my choices, but I always get to like, well, I was predisposed to it anyway. But it's there is like an understanding amongst my family, because there are a couple people out there right now still that I'm blood related to, and I was one of those people where it was said all the time, all we want is a year clean and you can come back. And I think I'm probably so my brother, who's also he's got like 13 years clean or something like that, but he never really left my parents. He kind of like stayed under my mom's wing while he was doing whatever he was doing, so he never had to go through that or whatever.
How far apart were you and that brother?
20 months.
Okay.
So it's me and then a set of twins. He's the second oldest in the family.
Okay.
And so I think I'm the only one that's ever actually utilized that extended hand. But so yeah, that's kind of, so to get back to it, right? Have you been to treatment?
No.
Okay. So I've done a lot of treatment, and I always told myself like, man, this is very inefficient. Like what they are doing is inefficient. I think I could do this better. Right. And it's egotistical and probably delusional to a point, but at the same time, it's like, I have all this experience, what did and what did not work for me specifically. And, I built our company out from that point of view of, and there's terms that I've come up with that probably are not industry norms or like recognized by other professionals. But, one of them is like that we refuse to be clinically lazy.
Okay.
Right. And we have clinical integrity. Right. I've never heard other people say it. They probably have. But that's part of like who we are culturally, is that like so what it is I don't know every treatment center that I ever went to, there'd be blocks of time where there's supposed to be different lessons, and it's all structured like really well, right? You can see it online sometimes, and people are like, oh, okay, it has a really good curriculum, right? But every single one of them that I went to, without fail, at least once a day, whoever was supposed to be facilitating any given meeting would come in and say, you guys are going to read the big book for the next hour. Right. Or you guys are going to have a meeting like amongst yourselves for an hour for whatever reason. But it was supposed to be relapse prevention or, some type of like DBT or something. And it's like, okay, those were kind of the first things where I was like, this probably shouldn't be happening. Right. Because we're here for like a reason. And that's for like, you guys are experts. Like, why are we running these groups? And I've been to treatment centers where that was 100% of it, you know, and it's like, now on the back end, now I know it's like, there are expectations legally and then like through certifications like JACO and stuff where it's like, this is not supposed to be happening at all. Right. And so, clinical integrity is a big part of our culture at our treatment, like within our organization. But yeah, all of it is built out from my positive and negative experiences in the in treatment that I've been through.
Yeah, right. So let's move on to the benefits of suffering.
Yeah.
So one thing I love about your message, Matt, is your willingness to talk about suffering, not as something to be avoided, but something that can shape us.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to be allowed to experience the benefits of suffering?
Yeah. So I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier where a lot of people have codependent or enabling relationships, right? And I saw this one guy so I knew him for years and I use this as an example all the time because it's the prime example of what this is. His mom would give him $100 every Christmas. And because he got that $100 for Christmas, he would look forward to that and justify everything that he did because he knew that he was going to get this $100 at Christmas. And it's something that little that can just perpetuate your sickness, right? And it's an extreme example, but it always blew my mind that like that was what he would talk about all year, right? But a big thing that we always see, and I'm sure you've seen it, but is that there is a level of ignorance. A lot of the times it is family, but there are always those relationships that seem to take responsibility for people and their addiction. And when you do that, you take responsibility from them, right? And I think that could be very detrimental to somebody's progression in their addiction because they are not allowed to fully experience their suffering. And I've seen it where these codependent relationships become the crutch or like the crux of all of their problems. And it also allows them to justify everything that they do. When I talk to people about this today, I really try to make people aware that it's like my entire progression in my story was that I couldn't lean on other people, right? I ended up under that bridge because my wife and I, girlfriend at the time, were like, man, this is $2,000 that we could be spending on drugs every month. And we made this decision together, like, all right, we're just going to stop. I got us kicked out of everywhere we went anyway. But it was after we got kicked out of this one place and we were looking for another place. And we were just like, you know what? We're on the street. We go home once every 3 days anyway. Like, when we need to shower, we can just get a hotel or something, you know, like let's start being homeless, you know?
Wow.
And,
okay.
If I would have had somebody that I was codependent with, I might not have been able to experience some of the most intense, painful, suffering moments of my life that pointed me to where I'm at today.
Well, it's like life happens for you, not to you. And these are the things, the suffering happens for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to experience those things.
Yeah. So the way that I really look at it is like, we're forged in the fire of our own mistakes, right? Suffering and pain will always be the greatest catalyst for change, right? We've talked about that for probably all of humanity, right? That pain is necessary for change. But there are lessons in that suffering that is so unique to those experiences. People who go through addiction have lessons and morals that other people just don't even realize exist. And there's a resilience and a level of like independence and like, I believe that anybody who can successfully enter recovery can probably do anything that they want if they put their head to it, right? Like it is probably the hardest thing that anybody could ever try to do is enter recovery after an extended bout with addiction.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? I mean, I have my opinion on why I think that is. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's what makes it the hardest thing to live a new life after living a life of addiction? Because they're two completely different things.
Absolutely. I know what it is for myself.
Okay.
All those years that I was active in my addiction, and I never tried to enter recovery because I knew I wasn't ready. Mm-hmm. The reason why I knew I wasn't ready is because of the work that's involved, the amount of suffering that's involved in actually recovering, right? There's something that I don't think is talked about enough is that when you get sober, stuff, most of the time, for the most part, it gets worse at first.
I can relate to that.
You know,
I can for sure relate to that. Yeah.
I think everybody can. Yeah. Right. You know, you've got years of damage that you have to repair. You have relationships that you have just burnt to the ground. You lost your job. You've sold all your stuff, whatever it is. Right. And you now have to face these realities. And facing these realities, looking in that mirror and really getting honest with yourself for delusional people is some of the most painful things that you could ever have to do.
Right.
And I'm a naturally, if I am not careful, I will lie to myself so easy. And it is so easy for me to believe a lie because it looks so true. And when you are going through these growing pains, if you don't have the proper foundation under you, which is built with that suffering and the pain and the experiences, like there has to be a level of suffering that goes into that foundation, because without it, what would stop you from continually going back to it, right? But I think the hardest part is the initial early recovery, right? People start hitting these friction points with their family, with whatever it is. And I've seen it in myself. I know my best friend passed away a couple of years ago, and he entered recovery. He now had to look in the mirror and do all this work. And he said, you know what? I've got this job. I can't pay my rent. I'm sober. I'm going to these meetings. I'm miserable. It's whatever. And he was like, you know what? I would much rather be using and going through these motions while I'm using than try to do this sober. Right. And I think it is very easy for us. Another part of it is once you've crossed that line, this is true for me. And I believe that it's true for a lot of us. Once you cross these lines, we are now willing to and able to do things that other people just couldn't even fathom doing, right? And we are now coming from the problem towards the solution, where the rest of the world, they stay in the solution and try to avoid the problem, like at all costs, right? I've got siblings that, I've got a brother that I'm in business with, and he talks to me all the time. It's like, man, I could never, ever do that, you know? And the reality is, because we've been there and done that, there are things that we can do because we know we're capable of them, and things that we will do because we've crossed so many other barriers and lines that are societally agreed upon that like normal people don't do, that it's just a lot easier for us to cross that road again. That is a big part of my whole philosophy about my recovery, right? Is the social calibration of my moral compass. So to answer your question, I think that the reason why it's so hard is a lot of people are robbed of the full benefit of their suffering and their addiction. And then they have to go deal with these extremely painful situations in recovery. And so they're like, well, I at least have this blanket that I could put on in my addiction.
Yeah. The solution. Yeah. The solution to the pain. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think my experience, I was just thinking about this. It's like the reason why it's so hard is because everything has to change. I lived my life a certain way. I surrounded myself with certain people in certain environments. I did certain things. And so that's my experience. It's like everything has to change when you get into recovery. New eating habits, new sleeping habits, new exercise habits. You pray and meditate. You do a gratitude list. New friends, new hobbies, new interests. Like everything has to change. Because if you go back to your old environment, it's too easy. The path of least resistance is to go back to doing what you were doing, because you're going to be triggered. You're going to be irritable, restless, discontent. Whatever. It's just too easy to go back. And my experience, like for me, I created a completely new lifestyle. And when I see people create a new lifestyle, and it's hard because when you're early in recovery, you're still the old person. you still haven't become the person that you want to be yet. So, they say you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And the people that I want to be like don't want to hang out with me.
Right.
Because, not yet, So it's almost like it has to you're slowly growing and changing and transitioning into or transforming into a different person. I don't know. That's my opinion. It's like I remember when I celebrated 5 years, I remember they said, "Congratulations, you're no longer a newcomer." It's like, what?
Yeah.
I thought I was an old timer at a year sober, right? Or 2 years sober or 3 years sober. But really, I mean, it takes 5 years of hard work to really finally get to a place where you're like, all right, I'm good. I think the statistically, I don't even know where this comes from, but people that make it to 5 years are 85% likely to stay sober for life.
Yeah. Yeah. There's statistics that I constantly refer to that are staggering, right? But yeah, people think they're going to go to treatment for 28 days and come out a different person.
Right.
And that is not true.
Like, I'm good, man. I don't need sober living. Right?
Yeah,
it's like, what?
It's amazing that it's like there are these expectations that are put on recovery, right? And the reality is you forgot to put the expectations on yourself. And it's like I could never wash away 17 years of slamming dope and running the streets in 28 days. It's impossible.
It takes a minute. It takes a minute.
And then the for me at least, changing. I have a mentor. He always has driven this home. Is like it is nearly impossible to get well in the place that got you sick. And for him, so he's the only Navy SEAL in the history of the world that after he got out of the Navy SEALs, picked up a fentanyl habit, went on this crazy drug addicted run, and then in order to get out of it, joined the French Foreign Legion. Right. Okay. And so he totally understood what he had to do in order to change his environment. Mm-hmm. And he had to, do you know what the French Foreign Legion is?
No, I don't. I mean, it sounds like the Green Beret or something.
So it is it's a contingent of the French military. It's by all foreigners, but the attraction is they completely erase who you were. They give you a French, a Canadian, social security number, a French name, and you just become a completely different person.
Okay.
Yeah. It's one of the most intense trainings in order to even get stationed somewhere. Mm-hmm. It's like he said it was like because he had been a Navy SEAL, they would literally make him scrub toilets with toothbrushes and be like, "Hey, Navy SEAL, go scrub that toilet." Right. Just like he calls it his baptism in humility. Mm-hmm. And like one time he had to build a pyramid up. They're up in like the French Alps. It's snowing. Mm-hmm. There are no rocks on the ground. He had to build a pyramid as tall as him, equal sides, out of rocks, before he could come inside.
Okay.
It took him days to do this.
Right.
And it was like some of the most miserable stuff, but he was like, I have to do this. Right. He always tells these stories. Like he would be up there in the middle of nowhere by himself, getting punished for nothing. And he'd see this airplane go by and he'd be like, man, I wonder where they're going. But like, these are the extremes. Like these are the types of extremes that when we go to those extremes in our lives, it's like, you have to radically do something different. Mm-hmm. And that feeds into this whole, everything has to change thing. Right. When these changes started happening in me, it was long, and the process of this change looks different for everybody. Mm-hmm. For me, it started while I was doing drugs. I fell out of love so hard with the situations and I was in some really, really disgusting situations between gangs and stuff going on. Like we were crossing the border constantly and it got really scary, really dangerous. And it was like, this just isn't worth it to me anymore, And then I had my girlfriend with me and it was like, I started to actually fear things, like for the first time in my life, it was like situations happened around her in Mexico where it was like, she never went back after a couple of these things happened. And it was like, oh my gosh, like life is getting really crazy. And I'm 30, I'm like 28 when I meet her. I'm like stuff started getting really crazy around 30. And so just these massive extremes that we go through, the only logical thing that makes sense is that we have to go through extremes to change. Right. And I'm a man, right? You're a man. My mentor and I, we talk about this all the time. That part of my philosophy that I've come up with is that as men in recovery, like we have to balance ourselves, right? And there's 4 parts to us where it's our mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional. Mm-hmm. And so we have to stay level. If not, like if one thing is suffering, it's got gravity and it will pull you down into it. And then everything spirals. And so unless you're constantly working on these things, and actually the trajectory of my recovery really changed when I met, his name's Taylor Kavanaugh. Mm-hmm. He's given me permission to talk about this and stuff and name him by name. Okay. But Taylor and I talk about it constantly. It's like the trajectory of my recovery really changed when I met him, because there was that component of myself that I never really understood was so important. It was the nutrition and working out, right? I started doing that and it literally felt like everything it was snapping into place, right? And around the same time that I met him was when the idea of Harmony Grove kind of started to enter the picture. And when I tell you that like things came together in ways that had to be influenced by something much greater than myself, I'm not exaggerating, right? Like just the people. Our facility was the Bluebell. You know what Bluebell ice cream is?
Yes. Bluebell
ice cream's administrative office.
Okay.
So our IOP's over there, right? It's got just amazing facility. Our staff is amazing. I could have never put this team together if, based on my historical record, I couldn't have done this myself, right? There's obviously something else going on. And a lot of my spiritual development really, I was a complete atheist, right? After I fell away from the church and this whole lifestyle or whatever. And I spoke a Christian language really well because of my upbringing. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of like used that in a very destructive way to really be just a jerk to people in my recovery who claim, my addiction that claimed to be Christian or whatever. But I was an atheist is what I claimed. Mm-hmm. And, about 2 years after I got arrested the last time, I'll never forget it. It was like a moment that I had where I was like, oh my gosh, it's been months since I thought about drugs. And I'm like thinking about what had gotten me to that point. I'm like, I cannot justifiably say that I'm just a lucky person anymore. Mm-hmm. Like there is obviously something else going on here. And I have like all of these metrics that I can talk about where it's like, I should have been dead. I should have been in prison. I definitely should have been in prison for the rest of my life, right? Mm-hmm. Many times over for the things that I didn't get caught for, and including for the things that I got caught for. Like things were working themselves out that like people ask me all the time, like, how are you not in prison? How are you not in prison for the things that you got caught for? And I have to tell them like, dude, I can't take any credit for it. Like there was something else going on. Mm-hmm. And now standing where I'm at today, it's like the reason why I was kind of given slaps on the wrist, like through this progression is I was supposed to do exactly what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
That's the only justification that I can say. Mm-hmm. And all of that credit has to go to something other than myself. It has to, because I know myself, like, and a lot of people around me know me. I will mess everything up every single time. Mm-hmm. So, all of these things really snapped into place, when I started working out and really looking at my nutrition. It was a game changer for me. And since then I have hit, friction points in my recovery too. Specifically with my family, and I've got some stuff going on in the background that is pretty painful. But, for the most part, it's like, I live a life today that completely, 5 years ago, living under a bridge, if you would have asked me, hey, what are you going to do? What are you going to be doing in 5 years? It definitely wouldn't have been this, definitely not.
Right.
And you saw my booking picture, right?
Yes, I did.
That is
I did.
Just a completely different person.
Right.
It's really amazing to me.
Yeah, that's amazing where how you've come so far in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what recovery can do.
Yeah. And I'll add this to that before we move on. This is what I talk about in the debt of recovery, right? Is that I personally believe that it would be better for me to just be out there using still if I wasn't helping other people, right? And it's part of this balance that I have to make sure that I work every day to try to tip that scale a little bit back towards the deficit that I've created in my life. I've done so much bad to other people. Like, you could take the criming out of it. You could take the drugs out of it. I've done so much bad things to people in my life. It's like, there will always be this deficit right there. But then I've also done all this other stuff, right? But then I enter recovery and all of these blessings come, and it's like, that still counts against me, right? I still have to balance all this back out. And I have to look at it as a debt, or else what am I doing, right? I have to continually be working towards paying something back, or else what am I doing, right? And my real core belief about why I'm doing this is because I believe that my higher power, there's somebody out there. I don't know this person. I don't know what they look like. I'll never know what they look like. I'll never realize when this interaction happened or not, but there's this person out there that I'm supposed to help. And if I'm not doing everything that I can to make sure that I'm in position to help that person when I interact with them, I will completely fail in what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I have to be the person that can help people. And right. And so it's like, I certify sober coaches, right? Every month we teach a certification course. And through that, I'm certifying people that are going to help other people. And then I've got this treatment center where we're bringing people in and helping them too. And it's like, I don't know if it's going to be these core people that I actually interact with. Maybe it's one of their parents, right? Maybe it's one of their children. Maybe it's one of their future children that they don't even have yet, right? But it's this ripple effect of recovery, right? One person can have a massive effect on the community around them. And if you enter recovery, you automatically owe this debt to whoever you want to say it's to. I say it's to my higher power, right? I owe this debt to this higher power to do everything that I can to make sure that I'm balancing that every day.
You know, when you're, I'm just sitting here thinking about growth versus decay. I'm either growing or I'm decaying. I'm either, and so with, you know, to your point, you're either helping people or you're not helping people. I don't know if I'd necessarily say you're helping or you're hurting, but if you're continuing to do the next right thing, so you're lying, cheating, and stealing over here, and that creates the debt. And then you're helping people, you're being of service, you're doing the next right thing. So you're kind of doing one or the other. So you're either continuing to pay that debt back or you're continuing to go further into debt. I mean, like, hey, I've, you know, it's not to say I've been perfect while in recovery. But I would say that more often than not, I'm doing the next right thing. I'm helping people like you. I'm working in a business of saving lives and helping people and being a good example. Yeah.
And I am hard pressed to say hurting people as well, but I do know myself. And it's like, if I'm not hurting people, even if I'm not beating people up or robbing them, I know who I become.
Yeah. Right.
And it's funny because it's like, if I don't work out for one day, my wife will automatically be like, yo, what's going on? Like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. No. You're not going to work out today? No, I need to take a break. I'm good. I'm like, are you sure? Right. She really knows, like, if I deviate from my program, there might be something wrong. Right. And it's because I become a really crappy person really fast. And about a year, right about the time that I met Taylor, it was one of those things where I was spiraling in recovery. I was going to multiple meetings a day. I had a really good sponsor. I was working steps and I was spiraling. And in my head, I'm like, man, I'm doing everything these people tell me to do. I'm going to these meetings. And it's like, and it sounds, you know, maybe people believe it or not, but I wasn't working out. I wasn't eating good, right? And then as soon as I started doing that, everything like really snapped into place and I was okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you that health and wellness and exercise and fitness is a huge part of my recovery. And that was when I pretty quickly after I got sober, I started working out. I started doing yoga. I started health and wellness is a big part. And a lot of times when I talk to people, they're like, man, you're so fit, you know, physically fit. I am very fit.
Yeah.
And, but it's not just the physical fitness. It's the mental, emotional, spiritual fitness. All of those things are part of it. I remember there's I have a friend named Tom. I got him to go. I was going to F45 for a while, and I got him to start going to F45, and he hadn't worked out like in 10 years or something. And he's got long-term sobriety. And I remember he started going to F45, and he was going almost every day, but he was only going 6 days a week. He's like, yeah, I only go 6 days a week because I heard that you're not supposed to go every day. He's like, do you think, he said, the one day I don't go, I'm just not feeling right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dude, you can go every day if you want to, just don't go hard every day.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of like take it easy. If mentally and emotionally you feel better, then go every day.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be doing something, in my opinion, in my experience. It's like a day off for me, a rest day doesn't mean that I'm sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
I'm still going to be doing something.
And that's the funny thing. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to lift today, but I'm still doing 200 two-pump burpees in the garage,
Right.
And she's like, "That? Are you sure that's enough?" I'm like, yeah, I'm
fine.
good. I'm good.
It's yeah.
But I think that there's a correlation. We do some really hard stuff in addiction, right? There's some decisions that are made, and like sometimes getting that next bag can entail doing some really difficult things.
Yes.
And so there's a discipline that comes in doing those things in your addiction, right? And it's discipline and dedication in your recovery, right? If I'm not disciplining my body, if I'm not disciplining my mind every day, and I believe personally that's like the highest form of self-love that you can, is self-discipline. So if I'm not practicing those disciplines every day, then I'm kind of failing myself, on those days. And so it's like, I need this. I really, really need this for my mental sanity. I really need this because it makes me feel good. I really need this because it keeps me aligned with my goals. Like, it was missing. That was really, really missing. And I grew up like, I played on a competitive water polo team from a very young age, where like this team competed in the Junior Olympics year after year after year. And I was 15 and I was the captain of my varsity team in high school with seniors. Right. And so it was like, I was really, really good at this. And then I swam. And then some of those baseline expectations that my parents had was, you're going to play a sport, and on off seasons, you're going to cross train, and during the summer, you're going to do a sport. Right. And so all of my life, and luckily surfing qualified for that. Right.
Okay.
So I turned into like that, quintessential teenage California surf bum playing the guitar at the beach and surfing, right? Smoking weed. But I fully have lived a life of discipline, whether it was in a good type of discipline or bad discipline.
Right.
And if I don't have some kind of discipline, I will spiral faster than anything.
Something to focus on. It's almost like having a purpose.
Yeah. Waking up knowing I don't like... first of all, I hate going to the gym. So I built this really cool gym in my garage. Like, I actually do not like going to the gym. I like working out though. But sometimes I look at my workout plan. I'm like, I really don't want to do this. Right. And it's like, doing those things, even when you don't want to, is so important. Probably more important than doing the workouts that you want to do. Right. Because it's like, I still have to do it whether I want to or not.
So I've done Ironman a couple of times.
Jesus,
it's the same thing. Like the Iron, it's the Ironman journey. It's not just doing Ironman; it's the journey.
Yeah,
you gotta run when you don't want to run. You gotta swim when you don't gotta swim. You gotta ride when you don't gotta ride. It's like it's all you gotta get enough sleep. There's all these things you have to do when you just don't want to do it.
Yeah,
and you can't, so there's a lot of talk about discipline.
Yeah,
and just doing things when you don't want to do them because it's in the plan.
Yeah, I read this. It was like a meta-analysis of a bunch of studies, and the result ended up being like, there is like a chemical reward that happens that actually changes the structure of your brain when you do something that you don't want to do because you have to do it, right? Okay. And there's actually like a physiological reward to doing that like, it's not that they become easier because you'll still not want to do it, but there's something that happens to your brain where as time goes on, you become able to you're like more resilient mentally.
Yeah, you're just able to, and I wonder. I mean, I can say that I'm pretty good at just doing things that I don't want to do.
Yeah. That's me too, probably.
Okay, so debt of recovery. Anything else? We started talking about the debt of recovery. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about with the debt of recovery?
I mean, we could talk about it for as long as you wanted to. I think we could apply a lot of things to that. You understand like the basic concept of it.
Of course. Yes. I think we covered that. Okay, so let's go on to relapse, desire, and spiritual growth. Recovery is not linear. Relapse happens.
Yeah.
Craving still exists. Let's talk about that reality.
Sure.
What are some of the biggest lessons you learned from relapse, either your own or those you've witnessed?
So my podcast is going to be called My Last Relapse because it was one of the most important things in my life.
Okay.
And then something that I've also learned is that we give power to words, right? And we allow ultimately we've let a medical industry give us these words that we get to, as addicts, point at and say, "Oh, I was triggered, so I have no control over that." Mm-hmm. You know, or I had this craving, and so I couldn't stop myself, right? And for me, the reality is those are just excuses. The reality is I wanted to use. Mm-hmm. So I did. Mm-hmm. And now I get to tell you this word that it's a buzzword for you to understand. I have no control over this. Mm-hmm. But that's not the truth for me. And I've talked to a bunch of people about this, and it isn't the truth for them either. And so I'm not saying that it doesn't happen or that they don't exist, but for me, I don't have triggers. I have excuses for using. I don't have cravings. I have the desire to use. And it's completely up to me whether I take advantage of these excuses or take advantage of these definitions that I get to throw back at these clinical people, right? And so what was the prompt again?
I just said, what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned from relapse?
Yeah. Relapse isn't necessarily a part of recovery. We hear this all the time, but the statistics say it's about everybody's story though, right?
Most people. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me personally, my last relapse was, so full disclosure, I got clean on December 28th. I got arrested December 28th of 2020. I had a couple of years, like almost 3 years clean. And then I relapsed, last year, I think at the beginning of last year. Mm-hmm. And historically my shortest relapse, right? It was only a couple of weeks, and it wasn't, this was in Texas. So I didn't have like access to like the drugs that I wanted even. And it was like so stupid. But one of the most important pivotal moments of my life, because it pointed me in a direction that I didn't understand I was going to go. I was sober. I was doing the darn thing. And, but the reality was I still had this desire to get high. Even with all of the good stuff that was going on, and I had these years under my belt, and then I relapsed, and I learned a valuable lesson that I no longer even want to get high anymore. You know, like, and I think that the massive importance of that was, yes, I was clean. Yes, I was sober. Yes, I was doing all this stuff, and I was checking off all these boxes and stuff, but there was still a portion of me that was still preoccupied with getting high. Right. And so I got to go through all these changes and experience a bunch of cool stuff and really make strides in living a new life and going through like radical changes in my environment and relationships and stuff like that. But through that relapse, I now today, I like, there is absolutely no part of me that desires any of the consequences. Right. So that was the first 3 years. Like, I don't want the consequences of getting high. So it was easy to like not use, but I still wanted to get high. I thought that like there was like a chance that I could use like a gentleman, right? Yeah. Then through that relapse, I realized like this doesn't even. I went right back to the feelings of just desperation and despair that I had left when I got arrested, right? And I was like, this is so miserable. Like I need to escape this as soon as possible, and so that was why it was, you know, historically my shortest relapse too. But it was so important, and I don't regret the lesson that I learned, but I do regret the ripple effect of what that had for some of the negatives. Because I am still dealing with those consequences today, you know. Yeah. But ultimately, it pointed me the direction that I'm going today. I wouldn't have had my treatment center today if it wasn't for some of the lessons that I learned in that. Yeah. I wouldn't have some of the connections. I wouldn't be here talking to you for sure if it wasn't for that relapse.
Right. It's like life happens for you, not to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes many, many years before you really even get to realize like, oh, that's why that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I got sober in 2011, and I mean, it took me years, 5 years. It took me a long time, 5 to 10 years before I like truly worked through everything. I mean, my first 5 years was separation, divorce, bankruptcy. My real estate license was revoked. I lost my business. I lost all my homes. Like my first, I mean, by 2016, I had started Camelback Recovery in 2014. 2.5 years into it, I owned a sober living home. I was the house manager. I was doing all of the BD, all of the admissions calls. I was working at a treatment center 20 hours a week to get my internship hours. I was in school getting my master's, and I was driving for Uber on the side to make enough money to pay my bills. So that was kind of like, that was the journey. And I mean, I'm so grateful for it, but I would not want to go back there.
Yeah.
I can tell you that
Yeah.
much.
And it's like all of those major losses in recovery. It's like, that was in recovery, right? You had to face all that stuff in recovery.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's like,
oh man. If I wasn't going to meetings once or twice a day, if I wasn't talking to my sponsor, if I wasn't close to a bunch of other people in recovery, if I wasn't like in it and, you know, surrounding myself with the herd, as they say, or in the middle of the herd, I mean, there's no way. I mean, it was just, I went through some tough time. It was rough, man. It was rough. And even 2024 was a rough year too. So I'm no stranger to rough times.
Yeah. And I think that isn't talked about enough, right? That on like upfront, recovery really might suck up front. But if you make it through, all of those promises, all of those rainbows and stuff, they really are there.
The gift is on the other side.
Yeah.
This too shall pass.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man. So we're coming up to the end of our time together. So is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't?
I really, really don't like talking about war stories, right? So there's years of war stories we could have talked about. I think we covered a lot of stuff, right? Nothing that I could think of.
Okay. Let's see here. So tell me, how can people find you? How can they learn more about your treatment center? How can they connect if they want to connect?
Yeah. So our website is harmonygrovebh.com. Our phone number's on there. You can get to me through there too. I'm starting a podcast soon. It's going to be called My Last Relapse. We'll start recording next month.
Great.
I don't have social media. I used to tell people it was a conspiracy theory thing, but I really just didn't want my family to get a hold of me. So
okay, that's smart. Yeah.
I do have an Instagram. I forget how to refer people to that. I just got it for the first time in like 3 weeks ago. Okay. But I don't really use that to keep in contact. If you want to get a hold of me, you can call the office and they will connect you to me.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thanks for your vulnerability, your honesty, your vision, for sharing your story with us. Truly appreciate you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Awesome. And those watching, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.
Thanks so much for listening to I Love Being Sober. I hope you got something valuable from today's episode. And if you're looking for more resources on recovery, mental health, or any of the therapies we talk about, head over to camelbackrecovery.com. You can find more episodes, blog posts, and ways to connect. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep growing, and keep living a kick-ass sober life.